Welcome back. Well, we bring you a political perspective of Budget 3.0 now, one that Finance Minister called an expansive budget. Emeritus Professor and Research Consultant at Wits University, Susan Booysen, joins us now to unpack the politics of the national budget. I must say, Susan, that I was calmer with this budget because I saw that with Ramaphosa and John Steenhuisen actually abroad, it means that everything is fine. But just the way that Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana went about consultations for this revised budget, can we say that the GNU has evolved into a mature coalition?
I would say it has definitely made significant progress into being a mature coalition. It's probably never going to be a perfectly mature coalition because there's so much internal contestation and so much of using the GNU in order to advance party political fortunes across the spectrum, across a whole range of parties in this GNU. But despite that, there is an evolving and increasing consensus that they have to do things together. I found it very interesting how much Minister Godongwana, in the course of this 1 hour, referred to consultations intra-government, in cabinet, between political parties. And we know that both he and President Ramaphosa and ANC Secretary General, on several occasions in the last month and two, have referred to that they have come to a new recognition as to how much of trade-offs, negotiation, especially consultation, this type of exercise involves. And it is significant that they had not sufficiently realized before that that is such an important part of a coalition government. And in that respect, Godongwana today in particular was very relevant in noting specifically the trade-offs and not just giving lip service to it, but on several fronts, one could pick up that this has been a trade-off.
Susan, a very interesting point that you make there, that this will never be a perfect coalition because there are still differences. And I mean, besides the recent fragmentation that we have on that we had on the budget, we still do have differences in policy approaches. But with this more compromised budget, could it lead to more compromises and adjustments when it comes to other contentious policies?
I think this budget, in a way, was a pathfinder for this coalition, in the sense that it showed how negotiations and trade-offs have to be used in coalition. It's a standard part of coalition politics, mature coalition politics, or relatively mature anywhere in the world. But in a way, these parties here had to tread that very difficult path and find it out for themselves in the way of two failed or aborted attempts at previous budgets this year. And in the end product that we see today, obviously there are some queries and problems among the political parties still in the GNU probably, but also between GNU and non-GNU parties. But I think the compromises have been significant. The speech also pointed out how much further work is being required in the medium and longer term, even just in the 4 years remaining of the term of this government. And I'm sure this has set out a recipe as to how consultations have to be done and how much consultations are truly required.
Susan, I was also looking out for provisions made when it comes to the impact of U.S. policies. The finance minister did mention the withdrawal of the HIV/AIDS funding by the U.S., but actually he's saying that as much as the department did give him some numbers, they really still haven't really worked out support for it, and there will only be support if and when they can afford it. And I'm wondering at this point, with this lack of detail, if that maybe has to do with the hopes of amending of ties between the U.S. and South Africa, seeing as Ramaphosa is meeting with Donald Trump this evening.
Yes, indeed. I was also very interested in that aspect, because it will, in all likelihood, probability, feature as part of the negotiations and discussions in Washington, D.C. later today. And if one preemptively say, okay, we've made amends, we don't really need it, we can show that we're independent as South Africa from the foreign aid, one has a lesser chance of getting it. Perhaps ways can be found, South Africa internally, to generate those funds, but it's not funds that are just freely available. And it would help so much if President Trump and his associates can come to a reconsideration of that, because it is a general societal impact. It's not a fight that has to be picked with whatever one may agree with one's among the political counterparts. So it does leave that door open from South Africa's side to reinforce in the negotiations their great impact this is having on the community, society in general.
Yeah, and we are hoping, of course, that that meeting will yield positive results. We do have to wrap up the conversation there. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights today, Susan. That was Susan Booysen, Emeritus Professor and Research Consultant at Wits University. And that's all for Budget 3.0. I'll be back on your screens with the close at 5:30 p.m. Until then, stay tuned for lots more coming up right here on Business Day TV.